Part 78. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 772. It was still more than a quarter of an hour before class time, and the teacher was not here, but after Lily pierced the window paper, Qin Zheng and Xiao Yan became a little embarrassed. In the past, the two people stayed together. They seemed to be getting along like boyfriend and girlfriend, although the classmates saw it, but they were not the only couple who were dating behind the teacher's back in the class, so no one talked about it privately, but this time it was different. This time, once Lily broke the window paper between the two of them, more and more people were talking behind their backs. As the first bell rang, the students entered the classroom one after another, and some people were buzzing. Lu Yao kept talking. When Lu Yao was helped back to the classroom by several girls in the dormitory, she heard this for the first time, and her face changed at that time. As a public lover, Qin Zheng has always been the idol in the eyes of female students in the class. Not only Nai Bei likes him, but also many female classmates in the same grade are interested in him. Although Lu Yao looks like a boy on the surface, she is still a girl. Deep down, she has also longed for boys like Qin Zheng, who are good-looking and have decent grades, but because she has always regarded herself as a tomboy, she is embarrassed to tell others what she is thinking. She seems to be a carefree person, but she is actually more shy than others. She doesn't even tell Xiao Yan what she thinks about Qin Zheng. She usually approaches Qin Zheng as if she is a buddy. When she heard that Xiao Yan and Qin Zheng were talking to each other, when they hugged her, she didn't make a sound at the time, but she was a little distracted all afternoon. Lily felt relieved after finishing the trouble. In the afternoon, Xiao Yan was too embarrassed to approach Qin Zheng as before. For some reason, Lu Yao didn't feel right all afternoon. She didn't know who to talk to if she had something to say. She just felt that this half-day was extremely difficult. She finally made it to the afternoon when school was over, so she pulled Lu Yao away. When he wanted her to go to dinner with him, Lu Yao shook his head and refused her, saying that he felt uncomfortable and had to go back to rest. Xiao Yan was stunned for a moment. This was the first time that Lu Yao rejected her. She stared at Lu Yao with some hurt. After a long while, she comforted her to have a good rest, took her lunchbox and left. In fact, the most important thing in the half-day afternoon was that the teacher talked about the goals for the new semester and informed everyone how many days were left for the college entrance examination. The positions were rearranged. Nai Bei's test scores in the second semester of high school were not satisfactory. Therefore, Lily was moved to the second to last row, and there were no classes throughout the day. After school, she packed up her things, locked the drawers, and left. After finishing dinner in the cafeteria, I went back to the dormitory building to get a water bottle and queued up to get some boiled water. When I went back, Lu Yao was still lying on the bed and Xiao Yan didn't come back. During evening self-study, Xiao Yan and Lu Yao, who had always been inseparable, unexpectedly sat in separate seats without sitting together. Lily only glanced at those two people and then moved away. Her time is precious, and the original owner's grades are very poor. She has to review her homework for the original owner. Although Lily has read books in the past, in addition to being good at liberal arts such as Chinese history and spoken English, she is actually not very proficient in mathematics, physics, and chemistry. Therefore, she must take advantage of this rare opportunity to study hard to pass the university entrance examination. Make up for the regret in the heart of the original owner. After graduating from college, she wanted to find a good job and pay off the debts of the Nai family. She didn't want to waste her time on Xiao Yan, Lu Yao, and others. It took several months to review all three subjects of mathematics, physics, and chemistry in the 3 years of junior high school. Now Lily is very powerful mentally and has high intelligence. It is not difficult to memorize all three textbooks by rote, but the remaining time she has to spend on practice. Now she is not in a hurry to learn new knowledge, because the original owner's foundation in science is really poor, and she does not understand. She went to ask the teacher at the place where she was. Although the teacher was a little surprised at first that she was still reviewing the topics in junior high school, Lily herself was willing to focus on her studies. Even if her grades were not outstanding, the teacher was willing to give some extra guidance. She, Behi, memorized the theoretical knowledge very well. Once someone pointed it out, she could easily understand the things she didn't understand before. Once the basic things are understood, it will be easy to learn the rest of the knowledge. Lily spent almost all her time in the first semester of her senior year in review. Her grades during the exam were not outstanding and could only be said to be average. She did not go home after the final exam, but called Nai's mother and said that she wanted to find a part-time job in the city. She originally wanted to be a tutor, but because she had not yet taken the college entrance examination, although she was a student of the provincial No. 1 middle school, she was too young because many parents were either afraid that she had no teaching experience and would not pay attention to the key points, or they were hesitant because Nai Behi was seriously biased in the past. Some of the people who agreed to hire her did not pay high prices. Instead, Lily ended up working in a dance training center. Got a job because of a photo of her. At the beginning of the first semester of her senior year of high school, she had a fight with Lu Yao, which aroused Shen Qi's revenge. Therefore, when passing by the basketball court, he threw a ball in retaliation. At that time, Lily's soft lower waist was photographed and placed on the online. During the past 6 months, she had been immersed in studying and ignored the gossip outside. In fact, she was already famous in the school. When she bent down that day, she did not warm up in advance, but she could bend her body down easily. Nai Lily is good looking and has practiced dancing since she was a child. Lily's lowering movements are very beautiful. This makes the people at the dance center interested. They hope that she will take a group of photos for the dance center as publicity photos. Because Lily is not a professional model, the price offered by the dance center is not too high. It is agreed that a group of photos will be taken for 5,000 yuan. Lily can also teach dance to people who come here at the dance center for 50 yuan an hour. Not only can she teach here during the winter vacation, in the future, you can also work part-time during school days, Saturdays, and weekends. Lily did the math. Even if she only taught 4 or 5 hours a week, it would cost about 200 yuan a week, 8 or 900 yuan a month. It wasn't much money, but it was enough for her own living expenses. At least she didn't need any subsidies from Nai's mother. The money she earned during the winter and summer vacations can be used for living expenses and college expenses. The 30,000 yuan she took from the scam company now, plus the money she earned from working as a model, the total is still just over 30,000 yuan, which is almost enough. As soon as her burden fell, she rented an extra single room during the summer vacation. In addition to working part-time as a teacher at the dance center, the rest of her time was spent practicing star exercises and studying. A month passed quickly. After the new year, school finally started. During the winter vacation, Lily went to the dance center to take 2 classes every day. Except for the holidays during the Chinese New Year, she earned a total of 4,000 yuan this month. She used the money to pay her tuition. After signing up and returning to the dormitory, almost everyone in the dormitory is here. Because this time she stayed in the province to work and did not return to the city. She no longer had to report to school early as before. This time she came back in time. To Lily's surprise, she was conjoined in the past. Ordinary Qiaoyan and Lu Yao's beds were separated. We have lived in this dormitory for more than 2 years, and the positions are almost fixed. Qiaoyan and Lu Yao used to share a bunk bed, but they often slept together. This time, Lu Yao moved the opposite bed. A girl had taken the lower bunk, and the dormitory was extremely dull. When Lily returned to the dormitory, everyone glanced at her and didn't dare to say anything more. They all lowered their heads in silence and packed up their things. Qiaoyan's expression was quite calm, but Lu Yao's expression was strangely silent. Not only did the two of them change beds, but Lily also found that the two of them no longer held hands. In the past, they would even go to the toilet together. Everyone has made appointments everywhere this time. This situation has continued until the end of May. There are only a few days left before the college entrance examination. In order to make the third-year students relax during the college entrance examination, the school specially held a banquet. This banquet is also an important turning point in Nai Beihi's life in the plot. At this party, she made a sarcastic comment to Qiaoyan. As a result, on the way back, she was surrounded by a group of gangsters, broke her hand, and missed the moment. 1 year of college entrance examination. By this time, Lily's grades were no longer as bad as those of her original owner. After she had made up for the basics, the remaining 3 years of high school courses would no longer be difficult for her. Lily was confident that she would be able to pass the key points in this year's college entrance examination. School, everyone in this dinner class is going to go, and she is no exception. The banquet was held outside the school. The school gave the third graders a day off. Everyone in the class reserved a venue outside to prepare for eating and singing. Dinner was at 7 o'clock. When Lily went there at 6:30, many people were already waiting in the lobby. Most of the people in grade 3A class have now arrived. It is rare for everyone to relax today. Everyone is sitting around talking and laughing. When Lily came in, she saw Qiaoyan sitting next to Qin Zheng, holding his hand. Knowing what he was talking about, the cold look in Qin Zheng's eyes softened, and the two of them looked at each other and smiled. Lu Yao was sitting not far from her, looking a little lonely. There was still half an hour before dinner, so Lily chose sit down in a corner. The door was pushed open all of a sudden, and everyone turned their heads to see. The tall Shen Qi led a few people from the basketball team in. They looked around. When they saw Qin Zheng and Qiaoyan, Shen Qi's eyes suddenly lit up. The beauty of these two handsome girls attracted people's attention. Qiaoyan's figure has become hotter this year. She wore a bohemian-style dress today. Wearing a tight-fitting white t-shirt on her upper body, which perfectly highlighted her round breasts. Shen Qi subconsciously walked towards her, and shouted with a playful smile. "Comrades! Today, some of our brothers are here to eat and drink. How about I cover the drinks for everyone tonight?" To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 773. Although the school gave the senior high school students a holiday and used class fees to book a hotel today, everyone still had to pay for extra items such as drinks. Shen Qi was so generous and offered to pay the bill as soon as he came. Naturally, the male classmates following the booing, the female classmates also stared at him with joyful expressions. Shen Qi was still popular in the school. Although he was not handsome, he was strong and tall. He was especially good at playing basketball. He was followed by others in the school. Qin Zheng is a completely different person, and is also quite popular with some girls. In this way, no one can stop this group of people from staying here to eat. Shen Qi smiled and leaned towards Qiaoyan, and turned his eyes when he saw Lily. His face suddenly turned cold. The enemy was extremely jealous when they met. At that time, Shen Qi wanted to throw the basketball on Lily to make her injured. Firstly, he wanted to vent his anger on his cousin Lu Yao who was beaten. Secondly, he hated Lily Nai for talking nonsense about Qiaoyan that day. Shen Qi has a boyfriend. Shen Qi has always been in love with his goddess Qiaoyan. He likes her so much that his heart aches. However, Qiaoyan's tenderness and innocence prevent him from having the courage to confess his love. He is afraid that he will taint her, but there is no such thing. Thinking of Lily Nai slandering her goddess in public, saying that she had a boyfriend. Shen-Chi always held a grudge for this. He wanted to take the opportunity to teach her a lesson that day, but Lily avoided him in the end, and Lily tried to save her instead. When he came back, the ball bounced up and hit him between his legs. At that time, he almost thought that his life was going to be ruined. Now that she thought of the pain she felt at that time, Shen-Chi subconsciously tightened her legs, and her cheek muscles began to gradually twitch. "Hey, get out of the way!" Shen-Chi looked back at the team members, and one of them caught his eye. Shen-Chi shrugged helplessly. Shen-Chi raised his chin in Lily's direction, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and the tall boy sighed helplessly. These people have been classmates with Shen-Chi for 3 years and played basketball together for 3 years. Naturally, they know that Shen-Chi was hospitalized for half a month because someone hit his lower body with a basketball in the first half of the year. He also knows that Shen-Chi was injured in the lower body with a basketball. Chi hates Lily. Therefore, although Lily is a girl and I can't bear to bully her, I think of Shen-Chi's influence outside the school. In addition, Shen-Chi's family usually has some influence and is generous. After playing basketball, he often invites people on the team to dinner. Drink water. Over time, you will eat people with soft mouths and take advantage of people with short hands. Now Shen-Chi asked him to cause trouble for Lily, and the people in the team were naturally embarrassed to refuse. Most boys of this age have some so-called loyalty inexplicably. After receiving Shen-Chi's signal, the boy walked to Lily's side. The classmates around him looked at him with unkind eyes and subconsciously stepped aside. Most of the students are weak scholars. The strong figures of the basketball team still put a certain amount of pressure on these students. Everyone found their own seats to sit. Before Lily could stand up, the boy kicked the chair to signal her to get up. Lily just didn't want to cause trouble, but it didn't mean that she was afraid of trouble. What's more, she had to be prepared to deal with what happened today. So after hearing this, she relaxed her original movement of getting up and put her arms back on the edge of the chair. Looking up, the boy pursed his lips and smiled. "So what if I don't let you?" Most of the students in the basketball department originally entered the school as special sports recruits. These people are all tall, and they are a bit scary when they look cold. When the boy came over just now, all the male classmates in the class were scared away, but the boy obviously didn't expect that Lily would not be afraid of him. Originally, he followed Shen-Chi's signal and came over to give Lily a slap in the face, and humiliated her in front of everyone. Unexpectedly, Lily defeated his army. The young man hesitated and looked back at Shen-Chi. He saw Shen-Chi with a sneer on his face. He was standing not far from Qiaoyan. If he failed to intimidate Lily, it would be the opposite. How can I hold my head high in school after being threatened by her? For a boy of this age, face is more important than anything else. Originally he was just venting his anger for Shen-Chi. Now he felt that there was no attention from the people around him. His face suddenly turned red and he shouted loudly. "Stand up! I told you to get out! You can't hear me, bitch!" As he yelled, he stretched out his legs and kicked the chair, and the thick muscles on his neck popped out. When the people on the basketball team saw this scene, some of them had a look of pride on their faces, while others couldn't bear it. After all, Lily was here. It seemed to the crowd that she was just a girl, and the young man's actions were a bit too much. Some people wanted to stop him, but Shen-Chi stopped them immediately. "What are you doing? He has a sense of proportion." Qin Zheng frowned. Although he didn't like Lily, Lily was always in his class. The people in the basketball team behaved arrogantly when they came here, but the classmates in the class all pretended to be deaf and dumb. Just as he was about to speak, Qiaoyan, who was standing next to him, shrank back in fear and started to tremble slightly. Qin Zheng glanced at Lily, and then at Qiaoyan, who was beside him like a frightened quail. And, sighing, patted her arm. Don't disturb everyone's interest in eating. Lily's eyes turned cold, but a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Seeing that the college entrance examination was coming, she was not prepared to make a big deal out of it in front of everyone and start a fight with this male classmate. Once he is punished, the male classmate will be unlucky, and she may also be implicated. She is the one who wants to go to college for Naibehi. Because of Shenqi's provocation, she didn't even wait for those gangsters to show up. It doesn't make sense to tie your own future to it. Shall we go out and talk if we have something to say? She made a weak look and whispered like she was begging. The classmates around her looked at her with sympathy and ridicule. Shenqi also raised the corner of his mouth. The young man who just told her to go away seemed to have found some face and sneered, "Why do you pretend to be fat with a swollen face? Couldn't you just get out earlier?" After he finished speaking, he kicked the chair again. Lily's eyelids drooped and she stood up. The boy was about to push her away and sit down, but Lily pulled the chair and walked out the door. The male classmate saw this scene, dumbfounded, then furious, and followed her. Lily saw that he was following her, and when she was approaching the door, she put down the chair. The young man felt that she had tricked her, and kicked the chair angrily. Followed out. "Is she okay?" The classmates in the class couldn't help but ask. Although Naibehi was not very popular in the past, he was still a member of the same class. As soon as the person who asked the question finished speaking, Qiaoyan continued, "It will be okay, we are all classmates, what can happen?" There was a coquettishness and innocence in her voice, as if she was wondering why this person would ask such a question, and her tone made people speechless, saying no, speak up. Lily was indeed fine. After she left the room, the worried and frightened look on her face changed. She then clenched her hand into a fist and hit the young man in the belly hard. The young man did not expect that the little white rabbit would turn into the big bad wolf. Leng Hui received this punch unexpectedly. The pain caused him to subconsciously bend his body. Lily strangled his neck with her backhand and dragged him towards the corner. She didn't want to cause trouble today, but someone wanted to come to her door to beat her up. Because this eating place was paid for by the school's class fees, it was not very high-end. There were no cameras 4 times, and everyone in the 3rd grade class was inside at this time. The air conditioner did not come out, and there were not many people in the corridor. Lily dragged the person to the corner. The boy was so beaten by her that he almost vomited. His neck was strangled again, as if he was about to die, and he had not yet reacted. Lily punched him in the neck again. With a wow sound, he couldn't bear it anymore, opened his mouth and spit it out. Not wanting to leave obvious scars for others to notice, Lily used her real strength when hitting people. The consequence of hitting people was that the damage would not be fully visible at the beginning, even if he called the police and went to the hospital for a checkup. There won't be any problems, but the disadvantage is that after 3 or 5 days, the situation will become more and more serious, and the healing time will be much slower than ordinary skin injuries. Lily stared at his stomach and hit him, not only to ensure that he would not, something was going to happen, and she wanted to make him miserable. She strangled the young man's neck to silence him from screaming, and then she bent her knees and hit his stomach several times. The young man wanted to fight back at first, but later the beating made his nose and tears flow out. Lily felt that it was almost done, so she threw him to the ground and stretched out her hand to straighten her hair. Trash, she stretched out her legs and kicked the young man, which caused severe pain in the young man's thigh. She subconsciously shrank her body. Lily took a moment to breathe evenly, then turned around and walked back into the room. When she opened the door, the classmates in the class were surprised to see her coming back so quickly. They saw that her eyes were not red and there were no signs of being beaten. Qiao Yin, who was standing next to Qin Zheng, subconsciously asked, "Where was that classmate just now?" "I'm not here to look after men for you, how do I know?" Lily asked back. Jiaoyan didn't expect that she would say this in front of so many people. Her face felt a little feverish at first, and then the circles under her eyes also filled up. She turned red, bit her lip, and glanced at Lu Yao. Lu Yao lowered his head and said nothing. Shen Qi couldn't help it and said loudly, "Do you want to die?" "I want to die, you want to help me," Lily laughed when she saw Shen Qi's clenched fist. Shen Qi cursed a few words and was about to rush forward with his fist raised. Lu Yao, who had been in a daze, then he seemed to react and pulled Shen Qi. "Brother, what do you want to do?" Lu Yao knew it as well as Bai He. It was only a few days before the college entrance examination. If he got into a fight and made trouble and got a demerit, he might be ruined by then. Shen Qi was her cousin and acted as impulsively as she did. She couldn't let Shen Qi take this risk. To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 774. What are you doing? I've long disliked this woman. I didn't even say anything about beating you, but I also smeared Yian's reputation. You ugly monster. Why did Yian offend you? You want to smear her everywhere. Shen Qi was extremely angry. What he can't stand the most is when someone talks about Jiao Yian's male and female style problems, because he treats Jiao Yian like a goddess and has always longed for her, so longing that his heart aches, but he dare not confess, and he praises her. Shen Qi was deeply afraid of blasphemy, but Lily repeatedly said that Jiao Yian had a boyfriend. Naturally, Shen Qi couldn't bear this. In addition, Lily hit his lower body with a basketball that day. Now it can be regarded as a new and old hatred. Hatred welled up in his heart. Although he didn't want to hit a woman, the woman who slandered Jiaoyan was an exception. If I didn't beat her to the point where she knelt down to beg for mercy and kowtow to apologize to Yian today, my surname would no longer be Shen. Shen Qi clenched her fists as she spoke. When Jiao Yian saw this scene, huddled tightly next to Qin Zheng and making no sound, all the students in the grade 3A class didn't dare to breathe. They stared at the scene in front of them, and no one dared to make a sound. Lu Yao glanced at Jiaoyan and wanted to reach out to hold Shen Qi, but how could she hold Shen Qi back in anger? The two of them have similar tempers, and they are the type who can't listen to other people's opinions when they get angry. Shen Qi shook off Lu Yao's hand and was about to rush over, when Lily suddenly dragged a chair and blocked it in front of her. Shen Qi didn't expect her move, and she almost hit the chair. Although she could stand firm, she almost fell down. Hit me? This is not your class, get out. People from other classes. If there weren't other students here at this time, if it wasn't for the fact that I still had to take the college entrance examination. Lily had already dragged Shen Qi out and asked him to hang out with the male classmate just now. But she is not in a hurry, because in the plot, Shen Qi will ambush her tonight, and her chance to vent her anger will come sooner or later. As long as she makes Shen Qi more angry now, it will be better to let Shen Qi lead the team in person. If his hands are disabled, he will not be able to take the college entrance examination. It would also be a good way to avenge Lily Nai's broken arm. You're looking for death. Shen Qi became even more furious when he heard Lily telling him to get out. He clenched his fists and kicked the stool hard. This time he used all his strength. He was tall and strong. Not a small one. Logically speaking, he kicked this out in anger. It should be able to kick the chair so far that it can no longer block Lily. Unexpectedly, when he kicked out, the chair was held lightly by Lily. He kicked it up with all his strength, but the chair didn't move at all. On the contrary, he even wore sneakers. But when he kicked the foot of the chair, his toes were injured with too much force. The nails of his big toes suddenly turned over, and the pain was excruciating. At that moment, Shen-Chi broke out in cold sweat, and his expression suddenly changed. His cheek muscles began to twitch, but he resisted not showing it, and instead stared at Lily fiercely. "Get out! If you don't get out, I'll sue the teacher." Lily saw Shen-Chi's face. He pursed his lips. With a joking look in his eyes, Shen-Chi gritted his teeth even more when he saw this scene. People around him saw the confrontation between the two people. Also afraid that something might happen, someone started to call the head teacher. Someone also quietly started to call the restaurant owner. When the students saw Shen-Chi's expression as if he wanted to eat someone, they didn't dare to express their anger. When the atmosphere was so tense that it was about to break out, Qiao Yan, who had lowered his head and remained silent, suddenly raised his head. "Chin up. Nai Bei, although Shen-Chi is not in our class, he is still a classmate of our senior year of high school. Multiple people are just multiple pairs of chopsticks. You don't need to be so aggressive and drive him out, right?" After she finished speaking, Lily looked at her with a look. Looking over at her, Qiao Yan seemed to be frightened. He leaned back subconsciously, as if he wanted to dodge. His face was pale with fright, which made his dark eyes even more vivid. "Lian, what's more, you alone can't represent our entire class." "You mean, you alone can represent the whole class?" "As long as I disagree with Shen-Chi staying here today, he is in the wrong room." "Qiaoyan, this is not your room. Male classmates can come in casually." Lily no longer directly said that Qiaoyan had a boyfriend, but changed her statement, but this statement was obviously more insulting, because Qiaoyan's face and neck turned red the next moment. Her body was even trembling with excitement. She suddenly grabbed Qin Zheng's arm and buried her face on his arm. Her shoulders shook slightly. Although she didn't make a sound, it was obvious that everyone could hear it. She was crying. How could Shen-Chi bear this? Lily making Qiao Yan cry was even more uncomfortable for him than making him cry. This time, he walked around the chair without hesitation and rushed towards Lily. When Lu Yao saw this scene, he tried his best to he hugged him. "Brother, what are you doing? If you have something to say later, leave first. Go away, I have to teach her a lesson today." Veins on Shen-Chi's forehead were beating wildly. Hearing Qiaoyan's forbearing cry in his ears, he lost his mind a little. His eyes were red, and Lu Yao couldn't help grabbing his hand and biting it hard. "Go back first, the college entrance examination is about to take place. Uncle and the others are still waiting for you to get into a good school." "Are you crazy?" Lu Yao glanced at Qiaoyan. Feeling that Shen-Chi paused after hearing her words, and quickly dragged him out of the box. Before leaving, Shen-Chi was still a little unconvinced. He shook off Lu Yao's hand and turned to point at Lily. "Wait for me," he grinned and spat on the ground with a ba sound. Drooling, he straightened his clothes and strode away. As soon as he left, Qiao Yan's hand that was holding Qin Zheng became stiff, and his face showed a look of confusion. Her pretty face was still wet, her eyelashes were still covered with crystal tears, her red mouth was slightly open, her nose was still red like a child's when she cried, and her whole body seemed to be wet. Dew was like a lotus flower, with a refreshing temptation. Qin Zheng felt the slight wetness on his arms. His heart, which had been uneasy because of the girl's active approach for more than a year, gradually began to ripple. He felt a little pity. He stretched out his fingers to wipe away the tears on Qiaoyan's cheek. His movements were a little cautious. Qiaoyan's face turned red. When Qin Zheng moved his fingers away, she seemed to have come to her senses and whispered. Said. "Thanks." Qin Zheng shook his head, his eyes fell on Lily, his expression was a little stern. "Nai Lily, you are a little too mean in your words." The students in the box had not yet breathed a sigh of relief. When they heard Qin Zheng's words, they became excited again. Qiaoyan shook his hand coquettishly and begged in a low voice, "Forget it." She was so considerate, which made it even more obvious how rude Lily had been to her just now. Qin Zheng's beautiful brows furrowed even more tightly, and his thin lips pursed tightly. Only people with dirty hearts. When you look at other people, you will think that they are just like you. People with messy private lives will look messy at everyone. In the eyes of upright people, you will never see the slightest bit of sin. He paused as if sarcastically. That's it? It's like birds of a feather flock together, and the garbage in the trash heap only sees its own kind. Without using a single curse word, it was ironic that Lily just said that Jiaoyan's mentality of caring about men was because Lily had such an shameful thought in her heart. It took a long time for the surrounding students to understand what Qin Zheng meant. After understanding what he said, everyone started to applaud in unison. He was indeed a top student. Even when he cursed, he was so clean and tidy, and did not say any foul words. Filthy words can make people feel ashamed. There was a bright light in Xiao Yan's eyes. She stared at Qin Zheng with admiration. This kind of naked worship like a little girl can easily make men feel a sense of accomplishment. Xiao Yan's academic performance is not outstanding. But when it comes to men, she has an innate sense of temptation. When she showed such a pure and straightforward look of admiration, even Qin Zheng, who had always been rarely expressive, smiled with the corners of his mouth raised and couldn't help but stretch out his hand. He pinched her face. Nai Bei, he really didn't know that Qin Zheng had such a sharp mouth in the past. He usually looked quiet and just immersed himself in studying. Unexpectedly, he was also very powerful when he scolded people. If he was the original owner, Qin Zheng said this, I'm afraid if she doesn't have the face to stay any longer, she will cover her face in shame and cry and leave. But Lily is not the original owner. She doesn't like Qin Zheng. Qin Zheng's words will naturally not hurt her, let alone Qin Zheng. The words were not scolding her into silence. A group of classmates applauded for a long time. Lily picked up the chair and knocked on the ground. The dull dong-dong sound made everyone in the grade 3A class stop clapping their hands and everyone became quiet. Lily looked at Qin Zheng and laughed. If you weren't filthy, how could you see my filthy mind? If you weren't mean, how could you see that I was mean? Since Qin Zheng said that he had evil intentions and thought that Jiaoyan was the same as him, now Lily also used his own words to block him. No matter how smart Qin Zheng was, he was immediately speechless by Lily's question. This is equivalent to using his own spear to attack his own shield. Lily just threw the question back to him. When Qin Zheng said those words just now, he never thought that Lily would answer like this. Qin Zheng has always learned he has good grades and has high prestige in the eyes of his teachers and classmates. Since he was a child, because of his outstanding IQ, there was nothing that could stump him. However, at this time, Lily threw her problems back to him and stumped him. His face suddenly became a little ugly, and he stared at Lily without speaking. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan ERWR. Chapter 775. At this moment, the teacher and the restaurant owner who had just been informed by the students rushed over. Everyone seemed to have just heard a debate. They originally thought that Qin Zheng's words were already very classic, but they didn't expect that Lily could still. After answering his words, she couldn't help but think that if Qin Zheng's words happened to her, few people would be able to answer like Lily. In the 3 years of high school, these people have not seen Qin Zheng in trouble. When they saw it, many people found it strange. At the same time, they no longer cared as much about the confrontation between Lily and Shen Qi as before. The teacher rushed over and saw that there was no big problem. He breathed a sigh of relief. Although the atmosphere in the box was a bit strange, he was satisfied as long as no one was injured. He greeted the boss to serve the food first, and said that a person from Class B of Senior 3B, a classmate from the basketball team, was beaten until he was unconscious in the corner and sent to the hospital. There were no cameras in the restaurant, and we don't know who did it. These senior students are about to take the college entrance examination, so we let them out today. The purpose of having a meal was purely to relax their mood. The teacher didn't want these seedlings to make any mistakes at this critical moment, so he told everyone not to go out casually, and hurriedly asked people to eat and prepare to leave this place. Qiaoyan was so distracted by the meal that she glanced at Qin Zheng from time to time. When Qin Zheng reached out to wipe her tears in front of everyone, she did not refuse. In fact, it was equivalent to a semi-formal disclosure of her relationship with Qin. The relationship between Qin Zheng and Qin Zheng has become a couple. Everyone has seen the closeness between the two in the past 2 years. Qin Zheng has always paid little attention to others and is cold and indifferent. He only looks at Qiaoyan in a different light. These two people just didn't make it public before, but now they are equivalent to taking the real name. She was happy and grateful that Qin Zheng stood up for her, because a boy like Qin Zheng was good-looking and had good academic performance. A girl of her age has no ability to refuse at all. She also likes him just like Lily Nai originally, but she didn't expect Lily to be so difficult to deal with. She looked at Lily for a while. She looked at Qin Zheng for a while, biting her chopsticks occasionally and not knowing what she was thinking. However, she didn't notice that Lu Yao, who used to sit next to her, chose a seat far away from her and sat down. As soon as the meal was over, everyone suggested that they go to the karaoke hall to sing. Firstly, Lily had no interest in singing. Secondly, because she was on a mission, she was not very familiar with the people in the class. What happened just now, none of the classmates in the class spoke up for her, which made it even more difficult for her to develop any friendship with these classmates. She didn't want to waste her time on this group of classmates, so she said she wanted to go back to the dormitory to review your homework. The senior high school students have been reviewing nervously for a long time, and the students' emotions have been tense. The teachers of the provincial No. 1 middle school hope that everyone can relax. She performed even better, but if the student took the initiative to study, the teacher would naturally not agree, and let her go readily, and asked Lily to go back and be careful. Lily left the class, and before she left, she heard Qiaoyan's portrait. There was a somewhat confused voice, "Normally Nai Beihi's grades are not very good. Is it useful to suddenly review now? It's just temporary support. Don't worry about her. She usually has mediocre grades, but she pretends to be a proud princess. Now if she burns incense and worships Buddha, her backstage will be the Jade Emperor. It's useless to get into a good school, in the dormitory." A girl couldn't help but said something with a smile, and everyone started laughing. The laughter spread far and wide, and the teacher suppressed his laughter and said to everyone, "Don't talk about people's right and wrong behind your back." Lily gradually walked away and didn't want to hear these voices anymore, so she stopped paying attention. As soon as she left, Shen Qi stood by the window on the second floor of the hotel and looked down. When he saw Lily walking towards the school alone, he grinned. He took out his phone and started gather people. Lily could feel someone following her from a distance. She had been waiting for this opportunity. At this moment, things finally happened like in the plot. The corners of her mouth curled up involuntarily, and she began to pick on the young man. Walking in a dimly lit corner, Shen Qi was surrounded by a group of gangsters. When he saw her walking towards the alley, he thought she was in a hurry to go back to review. She couldn't help but secretly rejoice, thinking that God was helping him. "Brother Qi, when are you going to start?" a young man next to him asked. Shen Qi's family is rich and powerful. He himself is usually loyal and righteous. He is very popular in the surrounding area. When he goes out to play, he always fights to pay the bill. He didn't hesitate to ask any gangster to borrow money from him, so when he heard him say that a girl had offended his sweetheart and wanted to teach her a lesson, he made a call, and almost all the young people in the community agreed. Shen Qi took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket and threw them at these people. He learned the worldly wisdom from his parents. If he wanted to find someone to do things, he had to get some benefits. Once the cigarette was thrown out, someone would pick it up. After they settled in, they distributed the food. A group of 7 or 8 people followed closer and closer. In front of them was the back alley of the school, and in front were the shops. People from the school usually would not come to this place, and the shops were usually lively in the front and deserted in the back. This road turns the corner and leads to the back entrance of the school. It is rarely used by people, even during the day, let alone at night. By this time, Shen-Chi felt that her patience had come to an end, and she made a gesture of fighting. A group of gangsters immediately surrounded Lily. "Who are you?" Lily had slowed down when she knew there was someone behind her. Now she was surrounded by people. She pretended to be frightened but forced herself to be calm and asked in a surprised voice. "Shen-Chi." I walked over from behind. The lights in the back alley were only dimmed by the campus lights. They were blocked by the tall trees planted on the campus. There were not many light sources available. The light at the back of the alley was not bright. You can't see the face clearly, you can only vaguely see the figure, but Shen-Chi is tall and very conspicuous. What's more, Lily has practiced martial arts, and her eyesight is better than ordinary people. When she saw Shen-Chi on the stage, she knew that her previous words to provoke him had an effect. She couldn't help laughing, and a group of people gathered in front of her. But the little gangster couldn't see the expression on her face clearly at all. But what Shen-Chi wanted was this result. He specially chose such a place and beat Lily to teach her a lesson she would never forget. But when the time came, it was she who wanted to report the crime. There was not enough light here, so she might not be sure. Who hit her? She had a quarrel, but she reported the case. Not to mention that his parents worked in the provincial public security department. Even if there were no parents, the police would not necessarily exclude Lily because she had a previous relationship with him. It is possible to be angry and angry. There is no surveillance here, no lights, people can't be seen clearly, and there are so many gangsters outside. Lily is definitely going to suffer the consequences this time. Shen-Chi was originally worried that things would get worse because of his parents' status. He wanted to find a way to get the best of both worlds, thinking about how he could block Lily and lead her into the dark place, but he didn't expect that she would send her away on her own. Coming to her door, this is truly a God-given opportunity, she is looking for death. A young man felt the movement of Shen-Chi's hands and laughed. "Who are we? You don't like it? You don't want to live anymore if you dare to bully my brother. I have taught you a lesson long ago now, if you are not afraid of death, brothers, give me a fight." As soon as he finished speaking, Shen-Chi clenched his fists and rushed forward. He had been holding back his anger for a long time. He was originally a domineering character. Not only did Lily drive him away in public today, which made him lose face, it almost ruined his life that day. This was simply unbearable. He had wanted to beat this bitch for a long time, but now he had the chance. The young people all knew what he was thinking, and tacitly gave the first opportunity to Shen-Chi. In their opinion, Shen-Chi was tall and strong. He practiced ball all the year round. He was not only tall but also very strong. Lily, she has a slender and soft figure. Shen-Chi is nearly 2 heads taller than her, not to mention much stronger. They never thought that Lily would be able to dodge Shen-Chi's attack, let alone that Shen-Chi might not be able to beat her. Therefore, when Shen-Chi made a move, some people even put their cigarettes in their mouths and started making noises. But the next moment, Lily raised her legs, jumped up and kicked Shen-Chi hard on the chest. She had been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. Shen-Chi wanted to find a dark corner to beat her. She wanted to call the police when the time came. Because the light was insufficient, she might not be able to see the face of the perpetrator and could not find evidence. In fact, what she was thinking, it's the same. She has been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. When she went out today, she wore sneakers that were good for fighting. When she kicked her feet out, she brought some internal strength. Before Shen Qi's fist came close, he saw Lily. He jumped up first. His father worked in the police station and graduated from the police academy. Shen Qi had been active since he was a child and had practiced a few tricks with his father. Seeing such a scene, he was a little surprised at first, but he quickly turned his fists into palms, trying to hold Lily's feet, and then slam her to the ground. Shen Qi believed that he had the strength, but he didn't expect Lily's kick to come faster than he thought. Before his palms could touch those slender ankles, a terrifying force hit him the next moment. Before he even felt the sharp pain in his chest, his body lost its center of gravity and fell out lightly. When Shen Qi panicked and wanted to find something to stabilize his body, his mind had not yet turned from the idea of grabbing Lily's feet and smashing her to death. With a bang, he was knocked to the ground. The bones in his body seemed to have been shattered. His chest felt a little numb at first, and then began to feel dull pain. Every time he took a panicked breath, the bones were pulled and hurt, and he couldn't even speak. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 776. The young people who were originally shouting for help saw such a scene, but they didn't expect that Shen Qi would be knocked down as soon as they met. Moreover, he was still dealing with such a little girl. They were stunned for a while. When they woke up, they hurriedly approached Shen Qi. Qi came around and said, "Brother, are you okay?" At this time, Shen Qi couldn't even breathe, so how could she speak? But he was speechless, and Lily didn't care about that. She first grabbed the young man closest to her, stretched out her hand to grab his collar, twisted him around, and kicked him before he could react. He was half kneeling on the ground with only the socket of his knee. He took one of his hands and pushed it hard with his knee. There was a crunching sound of broken bones, and the young man let out a scream, but Lily soon kicked him in the mouth. The man only felt his nose was sore and numb, but he didn't feel the pain. A stream of warm blood gushed out. He was kicked, and his teeth were so cold that he bit his tongue. His front teeth were also kicked a little loose, and there was a smell of blood in his mouth. He couldn't scream anymore. Lily is not ready to let go of everyone in this alley. Lily Nye's right hand was broken here in the plot, and now she is going to break everyone's right hand. The original owner couldn't heal her hand because she didn't have money, so she wanted to make these people unable to heal even if she had money. Lily was very cruel. When she broke everyone's arms, she left a mystery in the joints. The bones were not completely broken, but were loosened. Even if these people's arms were reattached in the future, once the loose bones fell off over time, they would cause permanent consequences. From now on, the right hand is equivalent to being disabled. The abused person now becomes the perpetrator. The young people never expected that the fish that they thought was waiting to be disemboweled on the cutting board would open its mouth and realize that it was a piranha. They all wanted to run away crying, but it was already too late. These 7 or 8 people were completely powerless to fight back under Lily. This alley is not a big place, and it is difficult to run. As soon as she sees someone trying to run, Lily holds the bag in her hand to trip. Several people were knocked to the ground. Shen Qi, who was knocked to the ground first, came to his senses. A group of young people around him screamed and fell to the ground. Lily clenched her fists and walked towards Shen Qi. Shen Qi's heart. I had a chill, and a layer of white hair broke out in cold sweat on my back. It was only then that I started to want to run, but where could I run? At the critical moment, his legs were as soft as cotton. He was shaking violently again, and the pain in his chest became obvious now. He swallowed and his arms trembled as he propped himself on the ground. He tried to get up and tried to hide. Lily stepped on the young men lying on the ground and screamed and walked towards him. She went over and saw him getting up and trying to escape. Lily jumped up and kicked him on the back. Shen-Chi fell to the ground again before he could stand still. Then he seemed to remember something and took out his mobile phone to dial 110. Shen-Chi was not stupid. He didn't think about calling the police at first because he didn't think Lily could beat them. How could he call the police and set up a trap? He was also afraid of causing trouble, but it was impossible not to call the police now. He had offended Lily too harshly, not to mention that Lily obviously had no intention of letting him go. Of course, which one was more important, was causing trouble or saving one's life? And metaphor. He dialed the alarm number in a panic. Just talking about the back alley of Provincial Number 1 Middle School, Lily's vest was already kicked by Lily, and she threw herself forward, and the mobile phone in her hand suddenly fell out. It fell to the ground and fell 3 or 4 meters away. It rolled a few times and the screen flickered. He lay on the ground in a big letter shape. Lily raised her heels and stepped on his elbow. Shen-Chi let out a harsh scream. When Shen-Chi screamed, because he had just called the police, the nearby police would call the police in a short time. Rushing over, Lily didn't stop anymore. She ran towards the alley in front of her quickly. She was originally planning to go back to school first, but after thinking about it, in order to prevent Shen-Chi from breaking the jar and biting her, it was now the college entrance examination. At the critical moment before, she still had to do a few more things. The alley is behind the shops, and this row is full of shop buildings, but there are gaps between the buildings. She regained her strength and jumped up to the second floor. She reached out and grabbed a sewer pipe, and found a place to stay. As soon as he got angry, he jumped directly to the roof of the 5th floor, and then entered the Kinta shopping mall through the safe passage on the roof of the 5th floor. After walking around the mall twice where several cameras were visible, Lily even tried on a clothes counter for a long time and changed into more than a dozen sets of clothes. It wasn't until the salesperson became impatient and started to roll her eyes that she chose. After buying one of the cheapest dresses, she swiped her credit card and left. The salesperson behind her was so angry that her nose almost became crooked. Lily tried on so many and finally only bought the cheapest one. She packed up the pile of clothes while cursing. This somewhat stingy customer left a very deep impression in my heart. Even if she went shopping in the mall when she returned to the dormitory, she was only delayed for half an hour. No one in the dormitory had come back yet. Lily threw the clothes she bought into the cabinet and didn't do anything even after taking a shower. He was practicing physical skills, but he took a book and read it in his hand. Within 10 minutes or so, footsteps could be heard outside the dormitory. "Yao Yao, why don't you help me tonight?" Someone took the key and came out to open the door. As soon as the key was inserted into the keyhole, Qiaoyan's somewhat aggrieved voice rang out, "We have always been friends, although I don't want you to help me much, but when Lily Nai said this to me tonight, you should understand that I am not that kind of person." There was a bit of sobs in her voice, as if she was a little sad, and her heart locked in a circle. The child stopped, and the subtle voice was heard very clearly in Lily's ears. She put down the book in her hand and closed her eyes to listen to the conversation outside. "Now that Qin Zheng is helping you, do you still need my help?" Lu Yao's voice was a little cold, and Lily was a little surprised. In the plot, Lu Yao is Qiao Yan's good friend, and the two have been good friends for many years. In order to protect Qiao Yan, Lu Yao tried her best to go to the same high school with Qiao Yan. After college, the two were also in the same school. In order to be with good friends, she even chose to marry Qiao Yan. They were equally professional, but Lu Yao's voice sounded a little cold at this moment, and Qiao Yan was obviously very surprised, because she paused for a long time, then seemed to react, and raised her voice a little higher. "Why do you say that? How is Qin Zheng the same as you? Are we friends? Why is it different? We are friends. I treat you as a friend, but you have never treated me as a friend." Do you treat me as a fool? Lily couldn't see Lu Yao's expression across the door. But you can also hear disgust in her voice. During her senior year of high school, because Lily was busy doing her own thing, she didn't notice the relationship between Lu Yao and Xiaoyan. Now that she thinks about it, it's true that this in the middle of the year, the two of them seemed to be much more estranged than before. She turned over and continued to listen. Xiaoyan seemed a little sad and naturally denied it flatly. The two gradually began to argue, and their voices became louder and louder, saying at the end, Lu Yao sneered, I told you at the beginning that I thought Qin Zhen was good. You also know that my brother has always liked you. You two were dating at that time. Who in the class didn't know? You, if you like Qin Zhen, tell me that I will not compete with you, but you ask me who I like, and I am with Qin Zhen behind my back. Have you ever considered me a friend? We didn't, that was Lily Nai's nonsense, Xiao Yan explained in a low voice. It was okay if she didn't explain. Lu Yao became even more angry when she explained, nonsense. I don't care whether what she said is true or not, at that time she and I got into a fight over you and went to the infirmary. You didn't even look at me the whole noon. What did I think you were doing? You were hugging Qin Zhen in the classroom. Who doesn't know? You don't want to do that now. Tell me this, my brother is injured and hospitalized. I don't want to tell you, just go away. Shen Qi is hospitalized. How did he get injured? Is it serious? Xiaoyan was a little aggrieved by Lu Yao's misunderstanding, so she asked Lu Yao. Lu Yao was obviously annoyed with her and didn't want to talk to her, so he walked away. In the end, she didn't even open the door. She turned the key and turned to leave. Xiaoyan chased after her, and their voices gradually became distant. The classmates in the dormitory didn't come back until more than an hour later. That night, a vicious fight broke out in the back alley of the school, and word spread in the school that a senior high school student was beaten to the hospital. The classmates in the dormitory were all talking about this matter. Some people speculated that Shen Qi had been hanging out for a few years and attracted revenge from others. Some people said that Shen Qi had a personal grudge with someone, so he asked someone to fight and was knocked down. Yes, everything was said, but no one guessed that it was Lily in the dormitory who knocked down Shen Qi. During the daytime physics class the next day, the teacher was outlining the key points. These are questions that may be asked in the college entrance examination. Except for the rustling of pens writing on the notebook, the classroom was extremely quiet. Suddenly, the class teacher opened the closed classroom door. He pulled it away, took a look inside, and then said, hello, Nai Bei, come out for a moment. The physics teacher was stunned and pushed up the glasses frame on his face. All the students in the class put down their pens. Qin Zhen, who was sitting in the middle row, heard the teacher call Lily's name and turned his head to look at her with a sarcastic look. At a glance, Lily clamped the pen in the middle of the book, pulled out the chair and stood up. There were already 2 uniformed policemen sitting in the head teacher's office waiting. When they saw Lily coming in, they frowned and looked at her. After several glances, one of them took off his hat and placed it on the table, saying seriously, Nai Bei, a group of people were beaten behind the school last night. 8 of them were unemployed young people, and one was your classmate in the 3rd year of high school. I heard that he had a bad relationship with you, and after he was sent to the hospital, when you wake up, I will tell you that you are the murderer. To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 777. When the head teacher heard this, he glanced at Lily. This girl had changed a lot this year. She was not as arrogant as before, but she was colder than before. She was usually silent and was not very popular with her classmates. In the recent mock exams at school, her scores have always remained at a stable stage, not particularly outstanding, nor extremely poor, nor tepid. Yesterday, Lily left first and had time to commit the crime. But thinking about Shen-Chi's tall figure and that group of people, and seeing Lily's beautiful face and slender figure, it was really difficult for the teacher to separate her from the group of men who had defeated her. The young man contacted the thugs, so he frowned and asked, "Answer the police honestly. If you didn't do it, just say so." The two policemen glanced at the class teacher, stretched out their hands and knocked on the table. "Yesterday, your senior classmates had a dinner, and you left early. Shen-Chi and others were beaten at 9:20. The time was just right, not to mention that I asked two classmates in your class. A female classmate named Xiao said that you have the ability to throw a girl of your age who is healthy and good at sports to the ground. Before dinner last night, there was a girl named Hedong. You are both on the basketball team and a male classmate in the 3rd grade of high school who gave you trouble. In the end, he was knocked unconscious and sent to the hospital. When he woke up, he said it was you who did it. Nai Bei, Shen-Chi, if you are not honest about this matter, tell me. I'm afraid we have to ask you to follow us back to the police station." The other policeman remained silent. The older policeman smiled and said, "You have to think clearly. You are about to take the college entrance examination. If something happens and you are delayed, your life will be ruined." Two uncles. "Don't scare me, I'm the most timid." Lily couldn't help laughing when she heard what the two policemen said. She said that she was timid. But her eyes were very calm, showing no fear at all. This look made the two policemen frown, because they couldn't see from Lily that a girl of this age should be easy to fool. On the contrary, it made them feel helpless. Seeing the expressions of these two people, Lily said, "Let's not talk about whether I have the strength to defeat these 10 people. First of all, the quarrel between me and Shen-Chi was just because I was in the same dormitory with the girl he liked. Our relationship was not very good. In order to vent her anger, Shen-Chi purely if he wants to slander me, he can make trouble for me. Of course, he can also say casually that I beat them. You can check these. What's more, the time you mentioned yesterday is indeed about the same time as when I left everyone to act alone, but after I left, I went directly to the mall and bought a skirt. I still have the shopping receipt. If you don't believe it, I think there should be surveillance video in the mall. You can also retrieve it to know whether what I said is true or false." As she spoke, she glanced at the class teacher. "Teacher, can I go back to the classroom and get my wallet?" A female student couldn't run away anyway, not to mention what Lily provided was considered as evidence. The two policemen took a look and nodded towards the class teacher. When the students in the classroom saw Lily coming in, they all stared at her curiously. The physics teacher sighed. Under the eyes of everyone, Lily took out her wallet and left the classroom. It contained last night's shopping receipts. She took it out and handed it to the two policemen. The time is displayed above, which is exactly 9:40. According to Shen-Chi's confession, the time he called the police was just before Lily beat them. The recorded time of the phone call to the police station at that time was 9:28. Although there was only one back alley between the school back alley and the shops, that was the alley is not short. If you want to walk through the alley, go around to the front and then enter the mall. Even if you just run all the way, it will take about 15 minutes. Assuming that Lily has the ability to fight 1 against 10, her physical fitness is much better than that of ordinary people. She can run this distance in 10 minutes, but it takes a while to get up and down the elevator. In shopping malls, the first floor usually sells skincare products, and the second floor sells gold, silver jewelry, and the third floor is for selling clothes. Lily has to go up, which will take at least 2 or 3 minutes. The two policemen never thought that Lily could jump directly from the middle of the shopping mall building without taking a detour. Judging from the time display on this shopping receipt, Lily had the motive to commit the crime and indeed did not have the time to commit the crime. The two police officers, the police were a little embarrassed for a while. We will investigate this. You just need to tell the truth about what happened. Another He Dongqiang also said that you hit him. A female classmate in your class was thrown to the ground by you, which proves that you do have certain fighting ability. After collecting this piece of evidence, the policeman asked without giving up. Shen Qi's father is also a colleague of the provincial police department. If this happened, the policeman must do his best for the sake of his colleagues. As soon as she finished speaking, Lily pursed her lips. I threw Lu Yao because she kept talking about my dad. There was a problem in my supermarket. Even if my dad mismanaged it, he paid the price. Even if he was at fault, he was punished. Mr. Lu Yao, take this matter as an example. I couldn't help but have a conflict with her. Even if I could throw her down, it wouldn't be difficult for me to throw down a girl who is slightly taller than me in anger, right? Even if I can knock her down, can she defeat a dozen people by herself? I am not Xiang Yu, the overlord of Western Chu. As for my classmates in the basketball club, I don't know him at all, but he was ordered by Shen Qi to cause trouble for me. I just begged him to let me go. The people in the basketball club have always been arrogant, and they are not clear with the young people in the society. Maybe they were beaten by people who were with Shen Qi, but they were instructed by Shen Qi to frame me. Lily's words were logical, and the two policemen were speechless. After a long while, the two men thought about it for a while, and then knocked on the table with their hands. Lily glanced at the two men, raised her head and spoke again. Looking at the head teacher. But teacher, I have a question. I won't mention whether Shen Qi's accusation of beating him is true or false. Just now two policemen said that they were beaten behind the school. After all, this matter is related to me. Do you know which school it is from? The head teacher saw her being interrogated by two policemen. After she went back yesterday, she thought she wanted to come back to review her homework, but she didn't expect that she went back to buy clothes. Although she was a little dissatisfied, she didn't want her students to have to deal with this. After all, he is a teacher and can be regarded as Lily's guardian at school, so when she asked her question, he answered, in the alley between the back of the school and the shopping mall in front. I'm not going to tell you whether I was the one who beat people up yesterday. I just want to ask, how did Shen Qi and others end up in that alley? Wouldn't they say that I got them there? Lily asked the police. The two policemen didn't expect that they were here to ask questions, but they were forced to question by Lily. They hesitated for a while. Seeing that they were silent, Lily then said, what's more, why did Shen Qi follow me as soon as I left? Did you leave? The alley was very dark. How could they see clearly that I was the one who beat me? Can I suspect that Shen Qi and the others had been following me and wanted to beat me, but ended up following a thug into the alley? They didn't hit anyone, but were beaten by someone. They thought it was me, so they called the police to report that they were beaten by me. Originally, the police came here to record a statement and arrest the prisoner. However, the prisoner was not caught at this time. Instead, Lily began to question him. The two policemen were speechless and unable to speak for a while. There are indeed many doubts about Shen Qi's matter. When the police rushed there after receiving the report yesterday, they found that the alley was indeed dark with weak light, but if a person stood in it without a flashlight, he could not see clearly. The reason why Qi and the others appeared there and were beaten is not worthy of scrutiny. However, considering that his parents were our colleagues, the police did not mention it, but they did not expect that Lily would also notice this suspicion, and all of a sudden Zi asked, and the two of them sighed. They always felt that something was wrong with Lily being so calm, but they couldn't find any flaws. The older policeman waved his hand impatiently. This matter has nothing to do with you. We will naturally investigate. You just need to cooperate with us. Generally speaking, ordinary people will feel a little scared in front of the police. Being intimidated by this uniform, most people will appear more cowardly, but Lily is different. Not only is she not afraid, she even has a smile on her face after hearing the police's words. Schemed. How can you say it has nothing to do with me? Now I have the right to suspect that the reason why Shen-Chi insisted it was me was because he recognized the wrong person, and the reason why he recognized the wrong person and appeared there was because he had been following me and wanted to beat me. He and I had a grudge because of a female classmate in the class. He wanted to hit me, and he had a motive. Moreover, he had the strength and the time matched. Otherwise, why would he leave as soon as I left? What if he really has this intention and hits me again in the future? This time they can identify the wrong person, but what if they don't identify the wrong person next time? I'm about to take the college entrance examination. What if someone asks me a question? Can't I take the college entrance examination? This is a big threat to my life safety. Officer, I want to call the police. I think Shen-Chi's behavior has endangered my safety. I hope you can investigate this matter carefully. I will pay attention. When the two policemen heard this, they were too depressed to speak. Lily's eyelids drooped. Is there anything else? If not, we are reviewing physics, and I want to leave first. The police couldn't find any other doubts. There was no evidence to prove that Lily was a suspect at the moment. She even produced a piece of favorable evidence. If they really checked the mall and found her whereabouts and determined that she had no opportunity to commit the crime, she was excluded as a suspect, and she could not be deducted at this time. She wanted to leave, and the two policemen could not find anything to say. To be continued. P.S. The first update, I haven't been able to update on time for many days. So what, I always feel sorry for everyone, so if the number of fans votes exceeds 60 today, I will update it. Now I have looked at the 35 votes. Everyone has a small collection of pink votes. I will try my best to code the third update. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 778. Go back, the exam is coming soon. Prepare with peace of mind. I hope you will perform well. Although Beihi's first choice was to apply for the Imperial Capital First University, which is the #1 university in China that can be ranked in the whole world, anyone with good grades in provincial #1 middle school would choose this school as their first choice. Including Qin Zheng, the head teacher never thought that Lily would pass the exam. He originally wanted to persuade her to change her choice. Originally, Lily's grades were average. The head teacher didn't expect her to perform exceptionally. As long as she maintained her current stable level, she should have no problem getting into an ordinary class. But this girl was very determined and didn't listen to him at all. The head teacher had given up long ago. After knowing that she was still thinking about shopping in shopping malls and dressing up instead of studying before the college entrance examination, she lost attention to her, so she just gave her a few words, waved her hand, and then Lily went back to class. The classmates in the class were very curious that Lily had just been called away. Apart from memorizing the key points outlined by the physics teacher and staring at Lily, Lily was the calmest. In fact, as long as these physics knowledge are understood and integrated, they will be useful. It wasn't difficult at all. She almost understood it. Memorizing key points or not was not that important to her. As soon as the bell rang after class, some people came back after going out and gathered together curiously and began to whisper. The whole day passed like this. After returning home, the two police officers also collected evidence and investigated. They did find a video of Lily appearing in the mall that night. Not only did she appear in the mall, but she had also tried on many clothes in that clothing store 5 minutes ago. The salesperson was very impressed with her, so it seemed like she couldn't match the timing. Unless she had the ability to teleport and appear in the mall immediately after hitting someone, She would not have the opportunity to commit the crime, and Lily was ruled out as a suspect. There are still a few days left before the countdown to the college entrance examination. Most of the people in the dormitory have been reading at night for the past 2 days. The dormitory of the senior high school students has almost stopped turning off the power switch in the past 2 days. Although the air conditioner is turned on in the dormitory, the doors and windows are closed and everyone seems to be reading enthusiastically. The air was still a little dull invisibly. Lily came out of the bathroom after taking a shower. Lu Yao, who was sitting on the bunk holding a book, glanced at Lily. "You beat my brother, right?" As soon as she spoke, everyone in the dormitory put down their books and looked at the two of them. Qiaoyan was sitting on the bed, but when he heard this, he leaned down to look. Lily wiped the water drops on her hair with a towel, and pursed her lips when she heard this. "The police said it wasn't me, but you said it was me." "My brother said it was you. Although I don't know how you could show up in the mall so quickly after hitting someone to buy something, I think it's you." Lu Yao's intuition was right, and Shen Qi insisted. "That's right, but neither of them could produce any evidence. This is like when Nai Beihi's father was poisoned in the supermarket. All fools knew that it could not be Nai's father. No one would put themselves in debt and do something that would harm others and not benefit themselves. But because there is no evidence, the murderer could not be caught, so Father Nai was still in trouble. It's just that Shen Qi was the one who suffered the loss at this time." Lily hung up the handkerchief and went to get a hairdryer to dry her hair. Qiaoyan, who was on the upper bunk, said, "The college entrance examination is about to take place, Lily Nai. Why do you still have the leisure to buy a dress?" She specially emphasized the words leisure and leisure. There was a bit of suspicion on the innocent and clean face. "It seems like you deliberately went to buy a skirt and someone saw you, thinking you are innocent." Both she and Lu Yao went to see Shen Qi. Women's sixth sense is very powerful, and Qiaoyan also felt that Lily did this. Although she knew the police couldn't find out, she just wanted to ask. Qiaoyan's guess was correct. But Lily sneered, "I can buy a skirt if I want to, it's none of your business." Unexpectedly, she spoke so rudely. Qiaoyan's eyes were a little red because of the blockage. After thinking about it for a while, she was unwilling to give in, so she retorted, "I'm just worried that your family's conditions are not good. Your father is in jail and your mother is making money. It's not easy. It's already tiring to feed you and go to school, so you shouldn't waste any more money. My mother doesn't care whether I bought a skirt or not. Why do you want to talk? Take care of your own legs. Don't pretend to be stupid and get stuck on a man when you can't walk." After Lily finished speaking, she blew her hair before Qiaoyan could reply again. Qiaoyan was so angry that she was trembling all over. She pointed at her and shouted, "You!" Lily couldn't hear the rest of the words clearly. The hair dryer was very loud. Qiaoyan seemed to defend herself for a few words, but when Lily ignored her, she felt like she was punched into cotton, and she was so angry that she couldn't help but cry. Xiuda didn't fall asleep again. The next day, she was in a trance during class and was not in her state. After Qin Zhen knew the whole story, he comforted her with a few words. At this time, he was also busy preparing for the exam and couldn't tell what was going on. Qiaoyan and Lily were fighting, not to mention that men couldn't always get involved in the war between women. He didn't like Lily at all, so he could only comfort Qiaoyan. After that, the two of them were admitted to key universities. Judging from Lily's usual test scores, it's good to be able to take the provincial key exams. It's impossible to enter a national key university, because whether it's the original owner or Lily's current exam scores, Qin Zheng doesn't care about her being as good as him. "I am very sure that if I can't get into a good school, I will be like that for the rest of my life." Qiaoyan's grades have improved significantly under his tutoring in the past 2 years. If he performs exceptionally well in the exam, he will have the possibility of entering a key university in the imperial capital. Very high. Once Lily is admitted to an ordinary school and the two of them enter a key university, they may not see many people in the future. They are no longer on the same level. Why bother with her? The countdown to the college entrance examination will soon be only 3 days. Fortunately, this time the college entrance examination venue is in the same city. There is no need to travel all the way for several hours to another city middle school to take the test with other people during the middle school examination. The examination room has been divided long ago, and where each person sits has been arranged accordingly. Before exchanging seats in the school, everyone prepared several sets of clothes, admission tickets, and other items, and then left separately. Lily was not nervous about the exam, so she performed very smoothly. After a few days of exams, she was not nervous either. During this period, everyone left the school and waited for the results to be announced and major universities to announce the admission scores. Lily and Nai's mother thought she couldn't talk back on the phone. She had saved more than 40,000 yuan this year, which was enough to pay for her 4-year college tuition. However, the Nai family still owed some foreign debts, and she wanted to help Nai's mother as much as possible. She teaches people to practice dance at a dance school. In late June, the results were announced, as were the admission scores of various universities. Lily surpassed the number 1 university in the imperial capital by 41 points, and was 7 points higher than Xinjiang. Not to mention becoming the best science subject in the province, the results are ranked among the top 10 in the country. When the scores were announced, the head teacher in the school couldn't believe his eyes. He didn't originally want to check Lily's scores. After all, Lily's grades were not outstanding in his class before. He just wanted to check Qin's scores at first. Qin Zheng's score, when he learned that his favorite disciple had passed the first university in the imperial capital, he was actually excited and happy. However, when he learned that Qin Zheng was not the first in the province as he expected, the class teacher became curious. I checked who the first place was, but I didn't expect that it would be the Lily in his class who was never famous and whose performance was not outstanding. As soon as the news came out, almost the entire school was shocked. Nai Bei became famous in the first grade of high school for her beauty in the first year of school. In the second year, she became known to many people in the school because of what happened at home. When everyone was waiting to see her laugh, she used the actual results, slapped all of them hard. The school put up a banner. Lily's performance was really a dark horse that the school had not expected. People from the TV station soon learned about this and wanted to interview Lily. Her story was so inspiring. It was led by a rich girl from a well-off family. Overnight, she became heavily in debt. Nai Bei originally had mediocre grades, but after the family suffered a big change, she not only did not fall down, but worked hard to catch up. This experience can be written into a TV series, plus Nai Bei is beautiful and cute. He is different from the general image of a top student. It is said that in addition to being outstanding in his homework, his comprehensive scores in all aspects are very high. Such an all-round talent has such a story and adds luster to the province. It is really a good thing. It's a big event worth reporting. When he found out about this, the class teacher didn't expect that his class would be among the top 2 in the province in science, and he almost jumped up with excitement. He originally wanted to call Lily to inform her immediately, but the class teacher didn't know it until then. She found that she didn't even know Lily's contact information because she didn't think Lily could do well in the test. But at the end of June, Lily estimated that her scores had come out. When she returned to school, she discovered that her test scores were lower. The first within. When the head teacher knew that Lily had returned to school to check her grades, she was so excited that she hurried to the office. The first and second grade students in the school had just started their final exams in the past 2 days. Although the high school students in the school had already been on vacation, it was still very lively. The head teacher in the office excitedly raised his glasses frame several times, and even took the initiative to make a cup of tea for Lily. Just when he was about to speak, someone knocked on the door of the office. The head teacher, Teacher Zhao, paused and shouted saying please come in. The office door was opened, and Qin Zheng's cold face appeared in front of the two of them. When he saw Lily there in the office, he paused and his eyes immediately turned cold. Teacher Zhao, I'm here to check my grades. Qin Zheng, come in quickly. When the head teacher heard this, he grinned widely, rubbed his hands, and called his beloved disciple to come in. Qin Zheng hesitated for a moment, then entered the office, and the head teacher moved it for him. The chair was sitting opposite Lily, and his eyes did not look at Lily, but only fell on the head teacher who made tea for him. When the head teacher said that his performance in the college entrance examination this year was normal, Qin Zheng's eyes showed an arrogant look. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 779. Qin Zheng has always been very confident in his own strength, and he was not panicking about this college entrance examination. In addition, he is not a careless person. Although he is good at mathematics, physics, and chemistry, he actually did not fall behind in any subject. He is famous a true student master. Doing well in the college entrance examination is a matter of course for Qin Zheng, and it is not worthy of his showing off and being a villain, but he still has some pride, so as soon as the class teacher said this, he nodded, picked up the cup of tea brewed by the head teacher with a calm face, took a sip, touched his lips and put it down again. Before Teacher Zhao could speak, someone knocked on the door again. This time it was Qiaoyan. She had obviously made an appointment with Qin Zheng early in the morning, so Qin Zheng was a little surprised when he saw her after the class teacher called him in. He was not surprised, but instead pursed his lips and smiled slightly. Qiaoyan was a little surprised when she saw Lily. She quickly walked towards Qin Zheng and put her hand on his shoulder. Although the school clearly prohibits dating, now that the college entrance examination is over, even if the relationship between her and Qin Zheng is made public, the head teacher can no longer control them. Today she made an appointment with Qin Zheng to come over to check her results. Unexpectedly, Lily would also be here. Qiaoyan pouted and said coquettishly, "Teacher, I came here to check my results." "Why is Lily Nai here too?" She seemed a little surprised, her eyebrows raised. Today she came out wearing a Xiangfei color chiffon jumpsuit. Skirt, her long hair was permed and slightly curled, hanging around her back. There were some beads of sweat on her body. Because of the sweat, the soft skirt clung to her thighs, revealing her beautiful buttocks line. Qin Zheng he reached out and straightened her skirt. Inevitably, his fingers touched her body. This action was too intimate. Qiao Yan's cheeks turned red again, and she reached out to brush her hair uncomfortably. Holding back the shyness and joy, he said directly, "You also checked the results. But didn't Lily Nai enter the wrong science class back then? I think based on your results, it seems that you are more suitable in the liberal arts class. If you don't do well in the exam this year, you can transfer to another class and study for another year, and then you can get admitted to the school of your choice." Qiaoyan introduced Lily very enthusiastically, with a happy smile on her little face as red as an apple. The little finger of her right hand was hooked with Qin Zheng's fingers. They were not tightly interlocked, but they were not. Showing unusual intimacy, Lily just smiled without making a sound when she heard this. The head teacher glanced at Qiaoyan. "Nai Bei, he performed very well in this exam and brought glory to our school. The school is already preparing to formulate a banner. People from the TV station also want to interview you, but they haven't gotten your contact information. Lily, please leave your number later. Come down and wait for the notification." Hear this. Before Lily could say anything, Qiaoyan felt something was wrong. "Teacher, how good is Lily Nai in the exam that she needs to hold a banner in the school? Is it better than Qin Zheng, When she said this, her face showed there was a bit of a playful smile, and the tone was obviously joking. Qin Zheng also curled up his lips when he heard this. In the hearts of the two of them, even if Lily performed beyond her normal capabilities, it was another blind cat that encountered a dead mouse. This time she got most of the exam questions right. But how can someone with average grades still compare to the top students in the province? Xiao Yan used these words to ridicule Lily, but she didn't expect that as soon as she finished speaking, the head teacher poured a glass of water and drank it. After sighing, he nodded. It is indeed better than Qin Zheng's score. Although Qin Zheng performed well this time, Lily's total score this time is 7 points higher than Qin Zheng's. She is the well-deserved science champion in our province. It has brought great glory to our school. The school has I have brought out 2 students, Beihe and Qin Zheng, and they are famous all over the country this time. Speaking of this, the head teacher also became a little excited. He brought out 2 such outstanding students. It can be imagined that in the future, what an advantage he would have in the final evaluation. He had just graduated from the normal school a few years ago, but he did not expect that his luck would be so good. He couldn't hide the smile on his face for a while. After the notification, the teacher is going to pay for it himself, use the money to hold a party and treat everyone in the class to dinner. How can it be? Xiao Yan couldn't listen to what the head teacher said at all. She exclaimed subconsciously, and the smile on her face suddenly froze. She couldn't take it back now, which looked very strange. Qin Zhenggang's eyes were full of contentment. At this time, it was replaced by haze. His handsome face was a little blue, his fists were clenched, and his body was extremely tense. Although he did not speak, it was obvious that he, like Xiao Yan, refused to believe this fact. Is there an error in the score-checking system? Teacher, have you checked it properly? How could Nai Beihe's score be higher than Qin Zheng's? Xiao Yan bit her lips tightly and asked anxiously. The head teacher frowned. He stood up and glanced at Xiao Yan. It can't be wrong. I checked several times and called to confirm. This year, the top pick in our grade 3 science, A, class of number 1 middle school is Nai Beihe. The candidate number has been confirmed. If you don't believe it, you can watch the news in 2 days. Lily was well aware of her test results. At this moment, the head teacher's words did not excite her. On the contrary, Xiao Yan kept asking, is it a mistake? Could it be the paper, wrong? She usually doesn't get good grades. The college entrance examination is not a child's play. There are even cameras in every classroom. There are a large number of teachers guarding the outside. The chance of making a mistake or cheating is very slim. When the class teacher heard what Xiao Yan said, his expression was a little unhappy, but he looked aside and left her. Qin Zheng, who was very close to him, said nothing. Lily hadn't spoken since the 2 people entered the door just now, and it wasn't until now that she left. Xiao Yan, for the sake of old classmates, I also advise you to stop focusing on men and focus on studying, and your grades will get better. At our age, we have to study hard. Why do you have so many relationships? After you gain more study experience, it will be good for you to enter the social work. If you have more experience in finding men, will it be good for you to get married in the future? Xiao Yan always said she was poor. Always mentioned that if something happened to the Nai family, she would be fine if she hurt others. Until then, Lily used the same tone and earnest words to persuade her for her own good, and Xiao Yan's expression changed. It's fun to step on someone's foot, but once it hurts, it's not so happy. When Xiao Yan heard Lily's words, her face turned red, tears welled up in her eyes, and she was so angry that she wanted to talk back. She wanted to say that she was not that kind of person, but she couldn't speak at all at this moment. Lily didn't say it to her in a fierce manner, but said it with a smile, imitating her gentle and friendly manner in the past. Xiao Yan felt so depressed that he felt like vomiting blood and clenched his teeth tightly. I should have known that there was some bad blood between the two girls. After all, Shen Qi, who was beaten and admitted to the hospital that day, had troubled Lily because of Xiao Yan. The head teacher probably also knew about the relationship between Xiao Yan and Lily. At this time, it was a little embarrassing to hear that the two people had a fight in front of each other, especially when Lily said that Xiao Yan's relationship between men and women was inappropriate. The head teacher actually somewhat agreed with it. In fact, he had always had high hopes for Qin Zheng. Although Qin Zheng performed normally, compared with Lily, he seemed a bit mediocre. It would be better if he could score a few points higher. The head teacher was distracted at the moment and looked at Qin Zheng and Xiao Yi. With the close relationship between An and Xiao Yan, it was inevitable that Qin Zheng's performance this time was not extraordinary because of his relationship with Xiao Yan. However, after all, they had already graduated from high school, and he couldn't say anything more, so he just sighed and said no made a sound. Lily got her results, filled in some information, ignored Xiaoyan and Qin Zheng, and left first. Xiaoyan was choked by Lily just now, but Qin Zheng was immersed in the blow and simply couldn't unable to help her. She came out of the class teacher's office very disappointed. Qin Zheng had always been arrogant and always ranked first, but this time he became second, which was a blow to him. It is conceivable that he did not notice the way Xiaoyan looked at him frequently. When the two left the class teacher, Xiaoyan stamped his feet. He felt very disappointed that Qin Zheng was so cold to him, so he found an excuse to ask for help. When she left, she originally wanted Qin Zheng to say good things to keep her, but she didn't expect that Qin Zheng was unwilling to accept it at this time, so he didn't even keep her. She turned around and left angrily, and when her tears were falling, there was something in her bag. The cell phone rang all of a sudden. Zheng is a big bad guy? Big bad guy? I don't want to pay attention to him anymore, she answered the phone with a sobbing voice while crying. The call was from Shen Qi. Shen Qi has not been here since early June. Lily was rushed to the hospital because the injury was too serious, and the injury was on his right hand. In addition, Lily wanted to sue him at that time. He was in a troubled autumn, so he had no way to take the college entrance examination. Therefore, I missed the college entrance examination this year. Shen Qi is a sports student. He has spent most of his 3 years in high school doing sports. His academic performance is only average and he missed this year's college entrance examination. Even if his family has the conditions to let him repeat the year, but in the future, at best, he would save money to study in an average university. If he wanted to get into a major university and get ahead, it would be impossible. Therefore, during his stay in the hospital, he felt cruel and decided to follow the old path of his parents and then follow the path of the police. Rather than fighting for the college entrance examination, which was a narrow path that he would have no advantage in the future, he decided to apply for the National Armed Police Academy. With his own strength, it would be much easier to get into such a school than the college entrance examination. Not to mention that he has a path. After graduation, his parents will set the path, and this path will be very smooth. To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 780. As long as he has the ability, he will be able to marry the one he loves in the future. Otherwise, if Shen Qi cannot even get into a key university, he will not dare to confess to Xiaoyan now. In the future, Xiaoyan will go to a key university. I am worse than her in every aspect, how can I deserve to be with her? For the sake of the future of the two of them, Shen Qi made a decision in his heart. He had already communicated with his parents and booked a flight early in the morning the day after tomorrow to leave the province. Before leaving, he wanted to see Qiao Yan and let him she spends more time with herself. At this moment, Qiao Yan was hurt because of Qin Zheng's coldness and Lily's sarcasm. Shen Qi left for her again. Although she didn't like Shen Qi, she was still very touched by his actions. Out of anger and emotion, she agreed to Shen Qi's invitation. I don't know why, Qiao Yan accidentally didn't ask Lu Yao out. Originally, the two girls had a very close relationship. In the past, Meng Buli was inseparable, and they were inseparable wherever they went. Even when they went to the toilet, they would go hand in hand. When she was in high school, Lu Yao obviously didn't like the serious study atmosphere of provincial No. 1 middle school, but in order to be with Jiaoyan, she still found some money from her family and came in under the name of special sports enrollment. After entering the school, the two of them lived and ate together, and even slept in bunk beds next to each other. They were usually very happy, and if Shen Qi made an appointment with Jiaoyan, Lu Yao would definitely accompany her. First of all, Jiaoyan didn't like Shen Qi. Although he was tall and mighty, Jiaoyan had never considered him as her boyfriend. She liked a humble gentleman like Qin Zheng, but she didn't like a macho and rough guy like Shen Qi. The man in the mine vaguely sensed Shen Qi's intentions for him, but he didn't want to respond to him. So every time he made a date, Jiaoyan would bring Lu Yao along, so that she wouldn't have to offend Shen Qi or be afraid of embarrassment. But since Lu Yao had a fight with Lily in the first semester of his senior year of high school, Lu Yao changed. She became different from before. Not only was she a little cold and indifferent to Jiaoyan, but she even changed her bed with someone else. She was no longer close to him. Fortunately, Qin Zheng was with Jiaoyan during this year. Although she felt a little disappointed at Lu Yao's alienation, she was not very sad. But at this time, Shen Qi asked her out again. I don't know why, Jiaoyan was either a little moved, or felt chilled by Lu Yao's current distant attitude. This time she did not call Lu Yao to go with her, but thought about it and went to the appointment alone. Her grades this time were considered ideal. She did not get admitted to the first university in the imperial capital, but in order to be with Qin Zheng, at least she was admitted to a school in the imperial capital, even though they were in different schools. But at least they are in the same place. Originally this was something to be happy about, but Lily, who had always had average grades than her, actually did better than her. Not to mention, even Qin Zheng was suppressed by Lily. The joy disappeared again. Jiaoyan was really depressed and couldn't be happy because of this. She agreed to Shen Qi's request. When Shen Qi found out that she came alone to accept the appointment, Shen Qi was so happy that it was as if a firework was blooming. He thought that he was leaving the province and Jiaoyan. There are always many outstanding men around Jiaoyan. What alarmed him the most was Qin Zheng's pretty face. He was also afraid that she would be snatched away by others in the years since he left Jiaoyan. Therefore, after shopping with Jiaoyan for a long time, it was already past 10 o'clock in the middle of the night. Shen Qi didn't want to leave yet when he sent Jiaoyan back to school. Holding her hand and walking in the school woods, I wanted to say something, but couldn't muster the courage. After Bei came out of the class teacher's office, she spent 1,000 yuan to buy a mobile phone in the afternoon in order to facilitate contact. Lily Nai originally had a mobile phone, but in order to go out to work in the second semester of her sophomore year, she had already sold it for travel expenses, and was eventually deceived. After joining the scam company, Lily has not used a mobile phone since then. Now that she is admitted to college, she will need to use her mobile phone in more places in the future, so she bought a new one. After finishing the dance class, in the evening Nai's mother used her new mobile phone to make a call. She originally wanted to report her test results and tell her new number. Unexpectedly, the head teacher had already called back to Nai's house early in the morning. It was just because Lily did not have a mobile phone number and could not be contacted. When she fell in love with her, Mother Nye could only hold back her joy and wait for her daughter to call her back. The Nye family has been in troubled times in the past 2 years. Now Lily has ranked first in the province, which can be regarded as bringing glory to her parents. Mother Nye happily said that Father Nye in the prison was also proud of his daughter and praised her for a while. And encouraged her to continue working hard in the future, and told her not to worry about the family. Nye's mother would work hard to make money and pay off her debts. After talking for a long time and hanging up the phone, it was already 9 o'clock when Lily returned to school. The school dormitory has not locked the door for the past 2 days because of the holiday. The weather at the end of June is still a bit sultry, and the sound of crickets can be heard in the surrounding grass. Are there any students in the dormitory who are waiting to get their test results these 2 days? Going home, Lily is not planning to go back now, but is planning to find a dark corner where no one is around, hide and practice physical skills for a while, and then return to the dormitory. The boulevard was quiet, with dim lights from the street lamps on both sides. This was originally the favorite gathering place for young lovers in the school. Not only was it hidden, but the school security guards and teachers rarely came here to check. Usually, it's very lively, but the end of June is the critical time for the final exam. Most of the students are cramming and want to do better in the exam. There are fewer couples here. Lily stayed here for an hour and a half. There was no one around. She was halfway through practicing a set of physical skills, with beads of sweat on her body. Just as she was about to continue, she heard the sound of 2 footsteps in front of her. "Ian, I'm leaving here. I've thought clearly. I want to take the SWAT exam. Will you support me? We are really enemies on a narrow road." When Lily heard this, her hand movements gradually became, after a pause, a large amount of spiritual power poured into her body, and she silently shrank her body and hid in the corner. On the other end, Shen-Chi was thinking about how to express his love to the goddess in his heart. In addition, Lily was hiding in the shadow of a bush in the dark, so he didn't notice at all. Xiao Yan was short in stature, and Lily deliberately hid. Where can she find it? What's more, after Shen-Chi finished asking, he immediately hugged Xiao Yan impulsively. She was startled, and instinctively struggled first. She originally wanted to say that whether Shen-Chi applied for the police academy had nothing to do with her support or not, but she didn't expect that the more she struggled, the tighter Shen-Chi's hug became. Yian's pair of soft breasts were squeezing against him. He was originally an impulsive boy in adolescence, and he was holding his beloved in his arms. At first, he was sensible and didn't want to scare Xiao Yan. Later, the more he struggled, the more Shen-Chi felt like a fire was welling up from his lower abdomen. He subconsciously hugged Xiao Yan tighter, feeling that the girl was soft and fragrant everywhere. She was soft. Her breasts were pressed against his chest, and her lower abdomen was between his legs. He began to instinctively push against Xiao Yan, and his movements gradually became a little more urgent. "Shen-Chi, do you have keys in your bag? You poked me." Xiao Yan's eyes seemed to be filled with moisture. Her body had begun to become a little soft under Shen-Chi's movements, but in order to avoid the two of them being embarrassed when she said it, she still pretended not to know and asked. It was okay that Xiao Yan didn't say this, but once he said this, it was like adding fuel to the fire. The girl's innocent eyes and innocent tone that seemed to be without temptation made Shen-Chi more and more unable to control himself. He originally didn't want to scare Xiao Yan, but now he couldn't help it. He reached out eagerly into Xiao Yan's chest, and shouted anxiously. "Yan, give it to me, I like you, and I don't want to see that you don't belong to me. I am willing to join the SWAT Academy for you. After I graduate, I will marry you gloriously. Please." At this moment, Shen-Chi was humble in front of Xiao Yan. His emotions seemed to be affected by Xiao Yan. He begged for Xiao Yan's mercy, and Xiaoyan softened his heart inexplicably. He wanted to join the special police school for himself, and he knew that he might suffer a lot in such a school in the future, but he was willing to do it for himself. A man was willing to suffer so much for her. She felt a little soft-hearted, and the strength of her original struggle gradually became smaller. This was not the first time for her. Chastity was not as important as others. If she could satisfy Shen Qi once allowed him to leave comfortably, and he would not feel guilty when he thought about it in the future. Please, please Yin, I will study hard in the future, and I will treat you well. Give it to me. His lips moved on Xiao Yin's face, and Xiao Yin's hand that was originally on his chest gradually hesitantly, it covered his lower abdomen. Shen Qi got such a signal and hugged Xiao Yin on the spot and sat on a chair by the roadside. Lily hid in the grass and heard the sound of Xiao Yin being kissed by Shen Qi outside. She also heard Xiao Yin's lazy kitten-like moans, and a smirk appeared at the corner of her mouth. Today in the homeroom teacher's office, she saw that there were phone numbers for each dormitory in the homeroom teacher's office. Because Qin Zheng was a top student, his dormitory number was recorded first by the homeroom teacher. Lily is now mentally strong and her memory is naturally strong. Although she only glanced at it, she still remembered the phone number of Qin Zheng's dormitory. She dialed the number on her mobile phone. After a while, a boy's cheerful voice rang on the other end. Hey, room 601 of the boys' dormitory, who are you looking for? To be continued. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan ERWR. Chapter 781. Lily didn't say anything. She turned the volume on her phone to the maximum. On the other end, Shen Qi and Xiaoyan were already kissing each other and entering the most intense stage. Shen Qi couldn't help but bend Xiaoyan's body. She was in a position waiting for him to enter, and she hurriedly took off her belt. Because no one was around anymore, and it was late, Shen Qi gradually became more courageous. Seeing the goddess in her heart let herself rub it, her mood in the excitement, he shouted. Yin, give me a cup. Hearing this voice on the other end of the phone, the originally cheerful boy suddenly became a little embarrassed, and his body was as stiff as a plaster. After a long while, even though the person on the other side tried his best to cover the phone, Lily still heard it. The boy said awkwardly, Qin Zheng, I called you. A sound of Zixi Suoshuo was heard when handing over the phone. Lily curled her lips and pointed the phone in a direction not far away without saying a word. Qin Zheng asked on the phone, who is calling? The boy couldn't tell, he just responded vaguely. Qin Zheng's cold voice rang on the phone, and said feed several times in a row, but this time Shen Qi had already straightened up and stuffed his body with all his strength into Xiaoyan's body. Ah! Both of them exclaimed at the same time. Qin Zheng on the other end of the phone thought it was someone who was playing a prank at first. He was in a bad mood today. Originally, Qin Zheng was confident that he could win the first place in the province. He never thought that anyone would surpass him. In the end, not only did someone surpass him, but Lily, who Qin Zheng had never been able to afford, beat him by 7 points, beating the first place in science in the province. Number 1 scholar. Qin Zheng felt that he didn't care about the title of the number 1 scholar, but he didn't like to be inferior to others. When he thought that he had become the second place inexplicably, he didn't say anything after returning to the dormitory today, but there was always a knot in his heart, and he still hadn't recovered his breath yet. Qin Zheng was very angry when he received this silent call. He thought someone was teasing him and was about to hang up the phone with a cold face. Unexpectedly, he heard his girlfriend Xiaoyan's voice on the phone. Panting. For Xiaoyan. Qin Zheng felt different. In his 18 years of life, he had never been so close to and fond of his mother. He was born with a cold personality and was not very good at dealing with interpersonal relationships. He was not very good with anyone. He has always been cold and indifferent when it comes to getting close to his parents, but Jiaoyan is different. He really liked her. Seeing her shy, pure, and lovely appearance in front of him, Qin Zheng would laugh when he thought about it. He thought about the girl who sometimes lay beside his hand, staring at her with eyes that were as bright as stars. When he looked at it, a corner of Qin Zheng's heart softened. In the end, the two came together naturally and confirmed their relationship as a couple. He even decided that Jiaoyan was his future partner, someone who would accompany him throughout his life. His original life had already been planned by himself, but then she was added to the family. He could say it, but Qin Zheng knew how much he liked Jiaoyan in his heart. He remembered every little move she made. He remembered her voice, skin, and smell clearly, as well as the painful cry just now. Qin Zheng recognized Jiaoyan's voice immediately. There are still men there, and the surroundings are so quiet. It's the dead of night, and a lonely man and a woman are together. Even if Qin Zheng convinced himself that Jiaoyan was pure and cute, he would not do such a thing. But he still couldn't help but start to think in that direction. It hurts, please slow down. Shen Qi is tall, and he is also larger than ordinary people. Jiaoyan is already petite, with a shallow and narrow pelvis. Once the two of them are not matched in size, they will feel a little uncomfortable. It would be fine if Shen Qi was experienced and took his time, but he had no experience at all. When he hugged Jiaoyan, he couldn't bear it because she was his goddess, so he just used that little lubrication and went straight in. In the end, Jiaoyan's whole body was stiff with pain, and Shen Qi couldn't help moaning in pleasure. Yin, Yin, you are so great, I like you so much. He shouted and began to press Jiaoyan on the chair, and then started to move with all his strength. At first, Jiaoyan still cried out that it hurt, but later gradually, he got interested and started shouting hurry up. Lily squatted in the corner, listening to the live sex scene, and her eyes fell on the dark mobile phone screen. At this moment, the mobile phone still showed that the call was in progress, indicating that she was in a call. Qin Zheng on the other end of the phone has not hung up the phone yet. He was tolerant enough. Under such circumstances, he could still bear to continue listening even though he had heard the lively sex of his girlfriend and others. Lily thought of Qin Zheng's cold and arrogant face, and what he had done before. In order to vent his anger on Jiaoyan, the smile at the corner of his lips widened even more as he said mean and sinister words to himself. At this time, Qin Zheng in the dormitory didn't want to hang up the phone. His ears were buzzing, and his mind seemed to be turned to mush in an instant. Today, in addition to losing the title of #1 scholar in the province, Jiaoyan's betrayal dealt him another heavy blow. If he is fine in normal times, for a proud person like him, if Jiaoyan doesn't like him, the worst he can do is leave coolly. Or based on his liking for Jiaoyan only needs to admit his mistake to him, and as long as if she doesn't do it again, Qin Zheng can forgive her. But at such a critical moment, after he had just received a blow today, Jiaoyan turned around and was with Shen Qi. Qin Zheng would inevitably feel that Jiaoyan thought that he had failed in the exam and was not worthy of her liking and chose another man. Falling into the arms of others, men tend to have random thoughts at such moments. The blood vessels in his mind seemed to be beating. Qin Zheng suddenly felt that everyone in the dormitory seemed to be looking at him with pity and sympathy. He was Qin Zheng, he doesn't need people to pity him like this. Others have always admired and respected him. He doesn't need people to pity him. Why would the classmate who just answered the phone in the dormitory know that he was the one who was looking for him? Jiaoyan and Shen Qi were in such a state that it was obviously impossible for them to call again. How did they know they were looking for him? At this moment, Qin Zheng's smart mind suddenly thought of the key to the problem. He could hear Jiaoyan's voice, and there was no guarantee that anyone else would. If the classmate who just answered the phone heard Jiaoyan's voice, after confirming that the call was for him, Qin Zheng no longer dared to think about it anymore. At this moment, he wished that his IQ was not that high. He wished that he was actually a fool. He didn't dare to think about the consequences if the people in the dormitory knew that his girlfriend had cuckolded him. His self-esteem and pride was severely trampled to the ground by Xiaoyan. If it was just in private, he could compromise for the sake of love, but it was about a man's dignity. Even if he loved Xiaoyan again, how could he endure it? There was a gentle sound of the receiver being put down on the other end of the phone. Qin Zheng stopped making any noise. A busy tone came, and Lily's originally dark mobile phone screen suddenly lit up. Here, Shen Qi and Xiao Yan and An were already immersed in lust and could not control themselves. If they continued to look at it, they would only pollute their eyes. Lily stood up lightly, raised her breath and rushed towards the grove behind the school like a willow leaf. The two people who were fighting fiercely at the moment didn't even notice what happened in front of them. Many students in the dormitory are still awake at night. The results of the college entrance examination have come out. Some are happy and some are sad. Lu Yao and others are sitting in the dormitory. From now on, they are far apart. Lu Yao was only interested in sports at first. As a student with special talents, she had to use some connections and school selection fees to enter the provincial #1 middle school. Her grades were not good. In her senior year of high school, she worked hard to catch up, but she was admitted to a university in the province. Several others also passed the exam. Everyone from other universities fell silent when they saw Lily coming in. After Lily left today, the school banner has been made. Everyone knows the list of the province's science champions. Several people in the dormitory really didn't expect that Lily, who usually looks dull, would perform so well in the college entrance examination. Even Qin Zheng, after the pressure was over, everyone wanted to ask Lily what was going on, but because they were not very close to each other in normal times, during the whole mess between Xiao Yan and Lily Nai, everyone almost stood on Xiao Yan's side. I am just curious at this moment, where can I ask questions? Today's Lily is not the same Lily as she used to be. Several classmates inevitably felt ashamed in front of her. Everyone took a break and thought of being separated from now on. Many people huddled together and fell asleep, crying as they talked. After getting up, Lily lay on the bed and listened to the noise without making a sound. Lu Yao sat up and said, "After all, we have been in the same dormitory for 3 years. There may be less opportunities to meet in the future. How about we find a time to get together someday? Let's get together." As soon as she said her words, before the other girls agreed, there was a knock on the door. The girl closest to the door got up and put on her shoes to open the door. Her skirt was thrown on her body randomly and there was a belt around her neck. Xiaoyan, with a few bruises and an air of love after love, stood at the door. Her face was still very red, she seemed to still have Shen Qi's breath on her body. Lily smelled it keenly, but the rest of the people in the dormitory were not found. Xiao Yan originally didn't want to have sex with Shen Qi tonight, but under his half force and half begging, she still had sex with him on the chair. Although it was very comfortable at the time, she felt so afterward. Something was not good. Shen Qi was not her type, not to mention there was Lu Yao in the middle. She really didn't want to have a relationship with Shen Qi in the future, and she didn't want to be with him. Lu Yao was caught in the middle, and Lu Yao was in trouble. Although he doesn't pay much attention to her now, the two are friends after all, so after Shen Qi was done, he originally wanted to come again, but Xiao Yan refused and forced him to send her back. There was a weird atmosphere. She didn't know whether it was because she had a guilty conscience and felt something was wrong with the people in the dormitory, or because she was really thinking too much. She pulled up her skirt and tried her best to hold back the heat gushing out of her body. Asked in a low voice. "What are everyone talking about? Why is it so lively?" To be continued.